Hello everyone, and welcome to the recording video on the radar tag for Citrix ITM. A lot of our product centers around real user metrics and how they give us insight into the internet in a way that synthetic metrics don't. We often get questions of how do we get those metrics, and the answer is with the radar tag. What I want to accomplish in this video is showing you what the radar tag is, where you should deploy it, and how it can be configured. So let's start with what the radar tag is. The radar tag is a JavaScript snippet, which you have in two forms here, one in a non-blocking form and another in a preloading form. The non-blocking longer version is recommended for most clients. For clients that are using our Video QoS plugin, and some other use cases, we might recommend the preloading radar tag here. Essentially, what all you have to do is select this script, which will be tailored to your specific customer ID within the Citrix ITM portal. Copy and paste this into your website template. So it needs to be on as many web pages as possible to optimize how many measurements are being taken. And we recommend putting it just before the closing body tag in your website. Once you've put it there, you will actually start generating measurements. So you will be generating measurements from the users on your website. They will be going out and measuring the platforms that you have here on the platforms page of your account. The question is then, how do you configure it? Let's go to tag configuration. There are a number of things in tag configuration that might be confusing to some customers, and I just want to walk through what they are so that it demystifies some of them. Starting first with timing options. You have two options here, one being the startup delay and one being the repeat delay. Now again, in most cases, the radar tag is going to be loaded after the page finishes loading. In this case, we can specify an additional startup delay. This means once the page loads, we are going to wait an additional 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds before radar starts measuring those platforms. This can be a security feature or a comfort feature to make sure that everything on the page is going to be completely loaded before we start taking any measurements. Next is the repeat delay. For websites who are containing a scroller format or for whom end users might leave the website up for days at a time because they never closed it, the repeat delay is a really useful way to maximize the number of measurements you're getting off of our platform. What this does is it says, we wait, in this example, 5 minutes. If the browser is still open on your web page, we are going to reinitiate a beacon of radar measurements. So normally we would just do one measurement whenever someone visits the page, one series of measurements. This way, if they leave the page open, we can continue taking measurements every 5 to 10 minutes to 15 minutes, etc. Next, going to protocol options. You have multiple platforms set up in your account. Some of them are HTTP and some of them are HTTPS. All this option is doing is specifying which one of those platforms you want to be measured by your private radar tag. Third is the sample rate. As it might sound, the sample rate is the percentage of pages viewed by visitors where radar measurements will be taken. So you can specify this. Most of the time we leave it at 100% and we don't touch this. Lastly, we have the limited number of measurements that you can take per page load. So when you have a customer visit your website, they're going to be taking measurements of their platforms, as we've said. You can limit the number of platforms that those end users measure. And why this is useful is if you have a very, very high traffic website, you're not going to need every single end user to measure every single platform each time. It'll be a lot of traffic going to your endpoints. So if you set this to auto or to a lower number like 2 to 4, that would be a good way to balance the number of measurements you're taking with the amount of load you're putting on those endpoints. All you have to do is push Save Radar Configuration, and the JavaScript tag that you had will automatically download that configuration data whenever a customer visits your website. This concludes the radar tag portion of the video. The last thing that I want to mention is the Radar native SDKs, which are listed here at the bottom of the web page. These function very, very similarly, and we have options for iOS, Android, and then a headless tag, which can be used for generic Linux boxes.